everybody? I am Winston A. Marshall, aka the Swaggy Blerd, and this is the Blerd Breakdown, the pop culture show for when you need to know. See what happened was. Now, if this is your first time here, please be sure you subscribe to the channel, you hit that notification bell, you throw a thumbs up on this video, man, and you check out all of the great content I got over here on the channel. I got a lot of stuff to talk about today, man. A lot of Avengers Doomsday stuff because we're getting really close. The trailers start in 2 days over on Avatar Fire and Ash. They're going to be in front of Avatar Fire and Ash, but I got some news about all of those trailers and what's kind of coming down the pipeline. We got to talk about Rob Reiner's tragic death. We got to talk about I saw a song sung Blue. I'm going to give you a non-spoiler review, and then when this show is over, I will drop my spoiler review, which I recorded. And then other than that, what was the last thing? Oh yeah, we got to talk about the NFL and all the crazy amount of injuries that went on this year and pretty much have determined how the rest of the season is most likely going to go. So we got to talk about all of that stuff. Again, thank you for coming in on a Tuesday morning yet again. I was at a screening for Song Sung Blue yesterday, so I had to take care of that as well as some other business. So we're doing it in the morning. Now I'm going to tell you, I hate doing shit this early in the morning. I'm not really a morning person like that, and I really have to like train myself up to it. But depending on how this goes, if y'all are rocking with it a little bit more, then maybe we do this instead. Maybe instead of Monday nights, it's a Tuesday morning thing, because I do have a lot of screenings on Mondays, so that might be a better thing. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's see. Let's get it popping. I'm just going to go ahead and set this this stream super chat goal, which again, if you would like to support the channel, support the show, you can either send in super chats, of course. You can send in Streamlabs, which is the best thing. Streamlabs are the best way to do it just because they take the least amount out. And let me go ahead and put this back up. I am shooting an indie film, and we're trying to raise more funding. So if you want to be a part of that, obviously I appreciate all of that. So let's get into it. Let's get active. I need to pull the story. This is my own fault for not having this up ahead of time, but very specifically, we have this going on with Avengers Doomsday. Boom, boom, boom. Bam. Okay, and we need to full screen this, so that'll help. Okay, so there's a couple different stories, but it's not this one. Apologies. Okay, so there's a little bit of some spoiler stuff here about the trailers that are coming, but the Avengers Doomsday first trailer reportedly leaks online, and there's a possible first look at blank. So we're not going to watch the trailer. I don't want to do that to everybody, but we can talk about it a bit. Now, Marvel Studios has yet to officially announce its plans for 4 Avengers Doomsday teaser trailers. A low-res version of a sneak peek has leaked, cam rip, in other words, and they have a screenshot. While they haven't seen the trailer themselves, we've spoken to several reliable people who claim to have seen it. As a result, we can say with some certainty the image below may indeed be the real deal. Apparently, the first 3 teasers puts the spotlight on the returning Chris Evans as Steve Rogers, more of an extended clip than a traditional teaser. It opens with the former Captain America riding a motorcycle, arriving home, and then he gets off his bike, picks up and looks at his old Captain America uniform, and instead decides to pick up his infant son. The brief teaser ends with Steve Rogers will return in Avengers Doomsday, along with a countdown to the movie's release. And then Evan said earlier this year, I talk to Robert Downey Jr. and the Russos all the time. It's where Pedro Pascal is right now. I mean, it's sad to be away. It's sad to not be back with the band, but I'm sure they're doing something incredible. And I'm sure it's going to be that much harder when it comes out. And you'll feel like you weren't invited to the party. Well, it seems like he's been going to the Andrew Garfield school of fibbing to fans, though we can't fault the MC veteran for not wanting to spoil the surprise. Unfortunately, by not officially releasing this teaser, Disney and Marvel Studios have facilitated Evans' return being ruined by blurry leaks that are slowly starting to flood social media. So yeah, I did watch it. Now, there was another thing about this that I want to talk about, though, because there was kind of something that was a little sad with it all. So yeah, The first of what is to believe the 4 trailers is coming out in front of Avatar Fire and Ash. It leaked online yesterday, and the character-centric teaser confirmed the return of the OG of the long-rumored OG member, as we talked about, Chris Evans, blah blah blah, Steve Rodgers. A lot of fans are pleased to see Rodgers again, but there are some that feel bringing the original Captain America back for a prominent role is a slap in the face of Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson, who inherited the shield from Rodgers in Avengers Endgame. Wilson will also be a part of Doomsday, of course, and is expected to get a decent amount of screen time as the leader of the new team of Avengers. Still, it's at least somewhat understandable that fans of the character would have their noses out of joint by this development. Should it be something we all saw coming, though? Following in Rodgers' footsteps was always going to be a tough thing for the character, and while Wilson's journey to officially accept the mantle in Falcon and Winter Soldier was mostly well received, the same cannot be said for Sam's first big screen outing in the new Sentinel of Liberty in this year's Captain America: Brave New World. We obviously won't know if or to what extent Steve's return will overshadow Sam's Doomsday role until we see the movie, but it hasn't stopped from people talking online, and this is what I really wanted to kind of get at. So what? You have one, Sam Wilson, you deserve so much better. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can just pull up Twitter and pull, because I saw that Steve Rodgers was trending. Let's see. Or at least it was trending for me. Yep, there we go. All right, so we have a couple things here. As great as Steve Rodgers and Tony Stark have been for the MCU, their stories have been told and should have ended with Endgame. Now, years later, we're getting a retcon as Marvel failed to develop any new compelling characters to lead the next phase. You also had Doctor Doom's introductory movie in the MCU, and his primary enemy is Steve Rogers, not Reed Richards, the arch enemy he's had for 6+ decades of beef with since his very first comic, because that makes sense. The concept, that one, we haven't seen Steve Rogers since 2019, and somehow he's the focus of Doomsday. People being confused about that. Yes, Doom's most iconic rivalry, Steve Rogers. What happened to this? Sam Wilson is Captain America. Steve Rogers trailer, just the Okoye, not impressed. The MCU's downfall needs to be studied, because how can I watch an Avengers trailer with Steve Rogers and feel absolutely nothing? But yeah, there's a lot of people. Wait, so Disney can bring back Steve Rogers, whose storyline is effectively ended in Endgame, but then it's not realistic for Ben Solo. I don't really care about Ben Solo, but whatever. But yeah. Yeah, they gave him a beautiful ending. It's like, why is he coming back as far as all that goes? But a lot of folks I saw were just really upset about Sam Wilson. And again, if I come back here, there's a few of those. He deserves so much better than to sideline him. You gave him a mediocre Hulk sequel solo film and immediately brought back Steve to lead is so nasty. Don't forget that Sam Wilson is Captain America. Sam Wilson's Captain America deserved his own Earth-based Avengers film before Doomsday. Marvel Studios, by backtracking and not believing in their plan or cast and caving to rage-baiting racist losers, leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Even if Steve isn't Cap, him being the lead over Sam is just giving the racist losers more to work with. Look at the way people are talking about Sam Wilson right now. It's gross. And when we said Marvel didn't treat Sam Wilson as Captain America well, they told us we should wait and see, and that we were overreacting. So this brings me to the next story that I was going to cover, and that what these 4 trailers are going to be. And again, they are this first week of Avatar Fire and Ice. It's going to be Steve Rogers. The next week, it's going to be a Thor-centric teaser trailer. The third week is going to be a Doctor Doom-centric teaser trailer. And then the last week will be the full teaser trailer released. So let's talk about all this, man. Let's talk about all this. Sorry about that. All right, so I got a couple thoughts. I mean, the first thing above it all, I don't think it is smart to make Steve Rogers the focus. I think it's okay for him to be the main thing that we're focusing on for the movie, but it sounds like, based off of what they're talking about, that he's actually going to be the lead. That I don't agree with. Because I think the comment that was made that made sense to me, and I think is the issue, and Daniel Rickman, who's one of the known scoopers that comic book movie covers a lot, and he's all over the internet and stuff like that, part of the thing specifically, um, it's this idea of, while Steve obviously is a beloved character, and while there probably is still more to pull out, he has not been seen since 2019. So to automatically just jump into making him the lead of this movie when you have been supposedly developing these other characters, developing these other storylines, I know you're having to try and clean some stuff up that didn't ultimately work out and things like that. But this idea of essentially throwing all of that out and just jumping back to Steve in a lead that was not earned. There's nothing about it at this point that had been earned. And if we had even been teasing in the last couple of movies something along those lines, or like, because yes, we have talked about timelines and Loki and things like that and how things have gotten upset, but we haven't even remotely come close to exploring how Steve was messing with Doom or anything else like that. It feels very unearned narratively. Now, the Russos are very talented. They obviously did a fantastic job with the two Captain America films and the two Avengers films that they've done. So there is a certain level of like trust I have in them as writer directors to really tackle this, but to know that that is gonna, it sounds like what's gonna be at the center of this, that Steve is the lead, is fucked up. Again, narratively doesn't make sense. I did not like Brave New World, but that doesn't mean that I didn't want to see Sam Wilson really get that opportunity to thrive. Like, I think you could have brought in Steve more as like, they made him like ancient at the end of Endgame, which was kind of crazy. But the idea of like maybe having old man Rodgers, but is still competent and is able to serve as like a tactician and get into some fights, but he can't fight at the full level that he always did, and still letting Sam be there and Sam leaning on Steve and things like that. I think that would have been a little bit better, both to lean towards the comics, to really let Sam kind of have his moment shine. Because again, as that said, it wasn't a Sam Wilson Captain America film. That was a Hulk solo, like a Hulk sequel. And you just happened to have Sam Wilson be at the front of it. You know, he wasn't even the lead in his own movie. So I do think that there is a certain level of narrative shit that doesn't make any sense. I think there is a level of like, I don't think that Marvel did this in a racist way, but you gave ammo to racists. The ones that were immediately going, Captain America could never be black man, blah, 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 blah. That was not great. Like, it literally did actively, you did actively kind of do that. So somebody's saying that they don't know if any of this is true or if it's just for engagement. I will say at the bare minimum, I have seen the leaked teaser that's coming out in like 1 or 2 days. I didn't want to show it on the show because I don't want to put it around there like that. I don't want to ruin anything for anybody. But he is, that is that first teaser. It is him, you know, young, with the uniform, with the baby, all that kind of stuff. So he's definitely in it. And it is very possible that it is just talking points from scoopers to, you know, push whatever said narrative. So it's right, we don't know. But going off of the information that we have, I just don't think that that is correct. Now, I do think the narrative thing that we are going to see, and we sort of saw this in Phase 5. It was about like death and rebirth and dealing with grief, and then Phase 6 was really focused on the youths, the next generation. So like obviously Thor, that was technically still Phase 5, but ending up with the kid at the end of Love and Thunder. Obviously Shuri taking the mantle of Black Panther, but then to Saint coming in, which I'm sure is going to come up, if not now, in Secret Wars. The passing of the torch from Hawkeye, the passing of the torch to Stature. Like, we've talked about how the Young Avengers are essentially coming one way or the other. Miss Marvel, all that kind of stuff. We are seeing that transition. So the idea of Steve having a kid and how that's affecting things, the fact that the Fantastic Four with Franklin and how them having a kid and how that's going to affect things. And it sounds like Doom losing his wife and his kid. And so that loss, but also the loss of his future, how that affects things. I think all of that is going to come into play for sure. So I don't think it's bad to, like, if Steve has a kid, that something is along there that we're doing that. But again, if this is true about him being the focus of the movie, I just don't think that that is correct. And I think what you're signing almost feels like a death warrant for the MCU a little bit, because what it feels like you're maybe admitting is that you can't recapture the magic and develop other characters that we're going to follow into the future. You're gonna have Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. do this forever. It's not that I don't enjoy them, I do, but does that mean that we always have to have an Iron Man, Captain America, Thor centric stories? I would like them to be around in some capacity. Wouldn't hate if they found really good actors to maybe recast or something, or you're about to do Secret Wars, so have alternate, worlds that you could pull from as you start to do a soft reboot and things like that. But I don't think they need to be centered. You need to be able to develop other characters, because if the next step is to get to the X-Men, you're making me nervous. Are you going to be able to develop that out and flush that out and whatnot? So again, I am still excited about all of this. I still think that the movie is going to be good overall. This kind of report makes me a little nervous personally, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to write all of this off. I will say once again, I am not a fan of putting Sam Wilson in the back seat. I know that the movie didn't do very well, but I would rather you find a way to fix it. But again, this is all just based off of speculation that's come out about these teaser trailers and whatnot. So let me know what you think. Do you also agree that this is kind of a jankety way that things are going to end up going? Or do you think, you know what? It's not, we don't know shit yet. Like, there's no reason to get all worked up about a damn thing. Let me know what you think in the comments, and let's keep it popping on to our next story. So as I mentioned, I went to a screening yesterday. And I got a chance to check out Song Sung Blue. This is the Hugh Jackman, Kate Hudson movie about a duo, a couple known as Lightning and Thunder, who were Neil Diamond, not impersonators, but like they did a Neil Diamond experience in Milwaukee, man. I have recorded a spoiler review, and it'll drop, again, I mentioned this at the top of the show, it'll drop after this show is over. I got to upload it, and then it should be out later this morning. But I wanted to give just like a quick non-spoiler thing, since I didn't do an out of the theater reaction proper. Honestly, this was a really, really fun and devastating movie. I forgot that Kate Hudson can sing. She sings exceptionally well. I knew Hugh Jackman, obviously, he's been doing stuff all the time. He's been doing all sorts of Broadway and musical reviews and what, like Les and The Greatest Showman. So he comes out swinging with his pipes in this. I didn't know Neil Diamond had that many songs. So they kind of go through the whole. Well, I mean, it will say spoiler review on it. So if people don't want to watch it, they can just wait and then come back to it. But that's why I'm doing the non-spoiler right now. My point is, this couple, for those that don't know, is, again, they're these Neil Diamond experience performers. And it really just goes through how they met, how they, went through life, and some of the tragedies they went through, but then like the love of music that kind of brought them together, and the blending of family. Again, I think the acting by Kate and Hugh was fantastic. I understand why Kate has gotten a Golden Globe nomination. I don't know why Hugh didn't, because Hugh is also fantastic in this. They both have some really tragic things happen to them throughout the film. I, again, will say go watch the film or check out the spoiler review about that. But there's something that happens kind of in the middle of Act 2 with Kate that probably brought a little bit more out, and maybe that's why she was nominated and Hugh maybe wasn't, though it's also just a very packed year of categories. It feels like it is every year, but there's a lot of great performances out there. So I know that maybe that probably had something to do with it. But I will say, if you were a music fan, if you were a biopic fan, highly recommend checking this movie out. Obviously Sweet Caroline is all over the place. Like it is the running joke of the movie. I didn't even realize that Sweet Caroline was a Neil Diamond song. I just knew it was the song that white people love to sing at weddings and everywhere else. So I learned a lot of history about Neil Diamond's music, and I said this in my spoiler review. I really enjoyed not only some of the the themes that were there about pushing through and the idea of growing old and what all of that has to do there, but the idea of your kind of hopes and dreams and what that means one way or the other. I'm always a sucker for a movie like that, and I really like watching biopics of people that aren't A-list celebrities. Again, this isn't about Neil Diamond. These are about Neil Diamond experience or Neil Diamond impersonator. And again, not really an impersonator. You'll see when it's in there, but like a cover band. That's the word I'm looking for. I really thought that was just a well done film. So I highly recommend it. It comes out on Christmas. Go check it out. Let me know if you're going to see Song Sung Blue, and like if it's on your list. And on top of that, I've only got a couple movies left this year before I will drop my top of 2025. I just need to see what Avengers, Marty Supreme, and oh my god, I can't remember the last one off the top of my head. There's like one other movie that I need to see, and then that should round it out, and I'm good to do my list. So come on back and check all that out as well. Somebody said my name, Channel 019, what's up? You just said Winston for some reason. Let me know what's up if there's something going on. But let's keep it pushing on to the next story. And unfortunately, we need to talk about the horrific death of Rob Reiner and his wife. Give me just a second. And I also need to talk about some bullshit that was said by a certain somebody. So Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner, yikes. Nope, we're not doing that. We are not doing that. Get the fuck out of here. Try that again. Rob, Michelle Reiner were murdered by allegedly by their son Nick Reiner. He was cuffed by police. Police have released photos of Nick Reiner's arrest on suspicion of murdering his parents, Rob and Michelle Reiner, and they showed the alleged killer getting handcuffed by members of the LAPD and the U.S. Marshal Service. In a social media post, the Los Angeles Police Department's Gang and Narcotics Division shared photos of Nick surrounded by cops with his hands cuffed behind him. Officers made the arrest Sunday night at Exposition Boulevard and Vermont Avenue near a train station, which you can clearly see in the background. Before the post was removed, the caption read, GND U.S. Marshal Task Force assisted Robbery Homicide Division in locating and arresting a double homicide suspect. Law enforcement sources tell TMZ LAPD Robbery Homicide reached out to the Marshal's Apprehension Task Force to help locate and arrest Reiner. We're told the task force eventually tracked down and arrested Reiner, who was then turned over to the Homicide Division. Nick is currently being held without bail at the Twin Towers Correctional Facility, where our sources say he's on suicide watch. Rob and Michelle were found dead Sunday afternoon in their Brentwood home. Rob, Michelle, and Nick went to Conan O'Brien's Christmas party on Saturday night, where Rob and Nick got into a heated argument before leaving. Nick's behavior at the party alarmed some folks, and he's been open in the past about his drug problems and experiencing homelessness as a result of addiction. So if we go to the story here, it was consistent with knife wounds. The legendary director and the wife had died. The two dead bodies were found at their home, as we mentioned. So all of the stuff, dispatch audio captures a firefighter calling up for backup to the Brentwood mansion around 3:30 p.m. They didn't provide any further information about the circumstances in the abode. And so that's, Rob Reiner obviously was a comedy writer working for Steve Martin. He was also known as Meathead on All in the Family. He won 2 Emmys for the role. He also was the director behind This Is Spinal Tap. I forgot about that. He also directed movies like Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, and When Harry Met Sally, which actually brought him to Michelle. Rob met Michelle, a photographer, and the two married in 1989. Perhaps even bigger than that, the relationship actually convinced Rob to change the ending of the rom-com to have Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan's characters end up together. Rob continued directing during their more than 35 years married, helming projects like Misery, A Few Good Men, The American President, The Bucket List, and Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues. Rob has one more directorial project, according to his IMDb, which has been completed. Live concert footage of the fictional band Spinal Tap playing at Stonehenge, along with other massive names in music. The film is set to come out next year. And then younger people might know him from as Jess's father, Bob, a New Girl. Yep, for sure. The last part of season 4 of The Bear. Yep. And he was politically minded, regularly talking on social media to espouse his views on hot button issues, which some found controversial. Prior to the 2020 election, Reiner, we asked Reiner about who he might support, and he made it clear he was riding with anyone who could defeat the incumbent president, Donald Trump. Rob was 78. Michelle was 68. So here's the last thing about the Rob thing before I kind of give my thoughts here. Let me see if this is... So this was pretty disgusting. The fuck Muppet in chief, man. You know, again, I try and leave a lot of political stuff out, but, you know, when it's, again, tied to pop culture and shit like this, I have to say something. So Donald Trump said a very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away together with his wife Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession with President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. May Rob and Michelle rest in peace. So,
well, horror.
Here's my thing. First of all, rest in peace to Rob and Michelle, man. That is absolutely fucking awful. The second thing, if you aren't already like addiction is so bad and mental health is so bad, it needs to be paid attention to and taken care of. My heart goes out to anybody that is personally dealing with mental health issues, with addiction issues, but especially to family members of folks doing that, and to see a tragic situation like this go down. Obviously, it's all alleged. We're waiting for, you know, all of the evidence of the trial to come out and all that kind of stuff, but it sounds like Nick did this. They talked about his hotel room and how the hotel room was covered in blood. It's just absolutely just heartbreaking. And I really am praying for the Reiner family, man. But back to the fuck Muppet. I find it really ironic, but not really, because it's just the hypocrisy that I'm used to at this point. For someone that was going on and on about how disgusting and terrible Kimmel was about talking about Charlie Kirk, or anybody talking about Charlie Kirk, to turn around and make this about you. So, man, as you admitted, was tragically and brutally murdered, and you're saying that it had to do with the fact that he didn't like you? Are you fucking kidding me? The hypocrisy to say, keep Charlie Kirk's name out your motherfucking mouth, which is fair. The idea of not celebrating or going on about murder or anything else like that, that is 100% fair. Turn that down. I appreciate. Thank you so much. We will read that super chat in a minute. If that's what we're doing, then keep the same fucking energy. But instead, what we're doing here is it's rules for me and not for thee type shit. Don't fucking talk about Charlie, but I'm going to sit here and turn around and be like, well, Rob was troubled. He was, he had a problem. He hated the Don. And because he hated the Don, of course, he had to be killed, is kind of what you're implying here. Again, if I pull it back up so we can see it, because I want to make sure that we don't do the same thing that people try to do with Kimmel, because Kimmel did not glorify anything. He specifically said that people were trying to say that it was some crazy liberal that was doing this. That's what he said. But it got twisted. Again, he says, once very talented movie director and comedy star has passed away together with his wife, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome. Literally, he said that reportedly due to the anger that people had, that he caused people because he didn't like you. Like, that's genuinely the most disgusting shit that you could possibly say, and it takes everything that you've put out there about feeling bad and how tragic it was, it feels like absolute, like it feels like you're like being petty as shit and going, oh man, you could have lived a great and wonderful life, but because you out here in the streets being a hater, you had to die, is essentially what you're implying. That's fucking disgusting. So again, if we're gonna have these conversations, if we're gonna sit here and say that none of this should be a joke, that the death should be serious, that people should care about that stuff, you don't get to sit here and go, oh, we gotta protect Charlie, blah blah blah, and then turn around and be like, well, you hated me, so suck a dick. Like, that's so fucking inappropriate, man. And this is supposed to be the leader of the free world. So when people wonder why I just don't fucking rock with him at all, it's because of shit like this. What president, like, supposed to be the leader of this country, talks like this? Only fucking assholes. So that's my 2 cents. Like I said, I don't normally bring political stuff specifically into this show. I've talked about wanting to do a political show, and maybe I will at some point. But I had to say something about this, especially because it was tied to the industry. I'm sending, again, so much loving and healing energy to the Reiner family, man. And I'm sending, prayers for Nick, because it sounds like this is a very unwell person. And if he comes out of his either drug or mentally do psychosis here and then realizes he murdered his parents, there's both a special, like, torture and hell he's going to have to live with for the rest of his life. And if he has no remorse for that, then, there's also an afterlife that he's, most likely going to have to deal with that as well. Like, it's just, this is a horrible, awful thing all the way around. So rest in peace to the Reiner, Rob and Michelle. And let me know what you think in the comments, man, about anything having to do with this story whatsoever. And now we got to get to the last little bit of news, man. We got to talk about all of the stuff that went down this past weekend. There was a lot of injuries in the NFL, and it's probably gonna be a wrap for a lot of stuff, man. If we go in here, Micah Parsons and Patrick Mahomes both fall to injury. One, I would argue, a little worse than the other. This is the ESPN report from the weekend. Even in a sport in which risk of serious injury on any given play is part of the business, Sunday delivered a pair of franchise-altering, league-shifting knee injuries. As he attempted to drive the Chiefs into range for what could have been a season-saving field goal against the Chargers, Patrick Mahomes tore his ACL, bringing an end to the most frustrating season of the two-time MVP quarterback's career. Hours later, in the middle of a widely entertaining game with the Broncos, Packers edge rusher Micah Parsons is believed to have suffered the same injury while attempting to chase down quarterback Bo Nix. In addition to overshadowing perhaps the finest game of Nix's young pro career, the Parsons injury casts a pale on Green Bay's chances for competing for a Super Bowl this season, months after it traded 2 first-round picks and defensive tackle Kenny Clark to acquire Parsons from the Cowboys. As much as I would love to write about Nix or Phillip Rivers or the rally team pick 6 the Ravens put together, or the battle between the Bills and the Patriots at Foxborough, the biggest story certainly is the season-ending knee injuries for 2 Hall of Famers and 2 future Hall of Famers, and what they mean for their respective teams and the rest of the league. The injury to Parsons means more for the Packers in 2025 than the injury of Mahomes does to his team, as the Chiefs' playoffs hopes were already hanging by a thin thread. And Kansas City has now been eliminated, but Mahomes' injury creates all kinds of questions about what the Chiefs look like when the QB does not return to the lineup. We don't need to get into the rest of this because I'm going to kind of give my 2 cents on it all in a second here. So that was just the main thing. Yeah, man, I feel really bad for both of the players. I like both Mahomes and Parsons, so I'm really sad that they're having to deal with that. I really feel bad for Packers fans because you guys it felt like a year that you could really, if not go the distance, make some serious noise in the playoffs. It's not to say that you necessarily can't, but you traded so much to get Micah, and he was supposedly the linchpin piece. Losing someone that disruptive, it makes me wonder if the Packers can still get it done. As this article said, Patrick Mahomes going down is incredibly sad, and it does have questions for the long-term future. But as far as this season was over. This was enough of Yeah, you guys were, if you lost this game, you were out of the playoffs anyway. Um, your best way in, you were gonna essentially be on one of the lower seedings. You're gonna have to be on the road the whole time. You weren't playing very well. Like there was a lot kind of hanging in the balance there. Um, so it's just devastating because this is what there's been plenty of injuries all year, but it feels like there were three just kind of majorly devastating injuries in I guess four. I take that back because you had Daniel Jones last week, you had Zach Ertz last week, and now you have Patrick Mahomes and Micah Parsons. And again, I'm sure there are more, but like that was full on season and franchise altering injuries. Um, Not Ertz. That was just career altering, which was also devastating because it's probably going to be the last play he ever plays professional football, which is nuts. Um, but yeah, I'm very curious what's going to happen with the Chiefs as far as by the time he comes back. Like, is Travis, who really feels like he's kind of done here, like he's already ready to start his new life, like New Heights is doing exceptionally well. He's the number one podcast, sports podcast in the world as of earlier this year. It may have fluctuated with some others, but it was definitely them for a bit. He obviously has the love of his life. He's about to become a billionaire through marriage. Like he's set for the next phase of his life, but he may not have wanted to. Like you don't want what has been your love since you were in Pee Wee, you know, to end on such a sour note. And it actually is kind of sad for both of. At least I will say with Jason, he did retire after. I guess he didn't retire immediately after that Super Bowl. He played the one more season, and it just didn't go super hot. Um, if I remember that correctly, now I'm just tired. It's early in the morning. But you don't want to go out like this. You know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see if he decides to come back or not. And then what do the Chiefs look like going forward? Like, is Andy Reid sticking it out, and he's going to be there for a while? Your receivers really didn't look all that good. Like Rashee Rice was doing certainly well enough, but like it just didn't have that potent energy that it always did. And I don't know if that was because Mahomes was just playing through injury or if everybody is just not as good as what they used to have. It just wasn't working. The defense was kind of falling back, and enough that they got eliminated this early before we got to the final weeks. So it'll be very interesting to see. But again, with the Packers too, this was their year. So will they rally? I'm really curious. I'm not gonna get into the Cowboys getting their ass whooped because I had a gut feeling at some point, you know, what's Nicki Minaj's song "Starships Are Meant to Fly"? Well, except for the Cowboys, that shit's always gonna crash and burn. It is what it is. So yeah, that is it as far as all of that goes, man. I'm curious what you think. If you think that the Packers can still pull this off, what you think the future of the Chiefs looks like, let me know in the comments. And let's get to these super chats and Streamlabs. Thank you so much for anybody that was down to support. I appreciate you so much. Let's see. Boom, we got the one super chat right here from JC33, and we saw that come up earlier. Support Winston, thank you so much. FYI, I've been trying on Twitter to get O'Shea Jackson Jr. to watch Blerds. Continue being awesome, and thank you for the content. Well, thank you so much, JC. I appreciate that a hell of a lot. And I hope O'Shea checks it out, man. Especially for those that don't know, again, I had mentioned we're doing another Blerd's Gonna Feud, so you don't want to miss that. I've got the survey out now. Any of the black folk that I know that are watching the show right now, will you answer the damn survey, man? We hadn't had as rapid as a response as we did last time, but I'm hoping that that will pick up in the next couple of days. But all that being said, that is everything. Please be sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, throw a thumbs up on this video, and all of that stuff. It helps out with the channel and all everything that I do on here. I've got a fun, like an extra video that I'm going to kind of go through in a little bit. I've got to finish editing it, of an experience that I had with YouTube. I actually got a really, really cool a program I did with them and a graduation ceremony I went to. So I will talk about that more a little bit later. If you haven't seen already, I've added memberships to the channel, and so there's going to be more exclusive content coming with that in the next couple of days and forward. Later today, Spill the Tequila, myself and John Roca on the John Roca channel. Blerds in the Hood tomorrow with myself and Jay Washington. And then Friday, Capes and Cows, myself, Christian, and Chris Carr. And we are rounding out the Demon Slayer reactions, myself and Christian, this weekend as well. So lots of great stuff coming out. Again, I'm going to go ahead and upload my Song Sung Blue. Let me double check something super quick because I am curious. Just need to check this. Okay. What I will probably do after Matt was being a old fuddy-duddy, I'll probably clip out my non-spoiler and put that up as a separate kind of clip out. And then the spoiler one will drop probably on like Christmas Eve, since this drops on Christmas Day. It'll give you some content to put out that day, so you can check all of that out as well. But nothing but love for everybody that joined me on the show today. Y'all have a great Tuesday, and hopefully I'll see you over at Spill the Tequila, man. Peace.